What is going on, Pooj crew? Thank you for being here for episode 137 of the Poojie podcast. Fun episode ahead today. Apologies on my end for not getting one out last week following a massive win versus the Chargers, but Florida was dealing with some bad weather, as everyone has probably heard by now, and we just weren't in a position to record. Weather was coming through midweek. Anyways, best wishes to those that were affected by the hurricane. And our hearts go out to you and hope that everything is okay wherever you may be and that you and your loved ones are safe. But we are back for episode 137 following the Jaguars-Eagles game. But we will jump in to a little bit of the Jags-Chargers, and then we'll look ahead to the Jaguars-Texans Week 5 game coming up. So let's welcome in the crew from last episode, 136. Now joining me again, 137. We have Jacob here as well as Matt. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Yes, thank you very much. Glad to be back. Should be a fun episode.
Going to be a fun one. Jacob, you might be a little muted.
Good, because I spoke at the same time as Matt, so that would have been awkward. That's called some divine intervention right there.
We take a week off. Jacob forgets to unmute himself.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad. I'm kind of glad we didn't have the podcast last week, because we might have said something ignorant about the outcome of the Eagles game. So maybe we got saved right there.
I know, and Devbo would have come on and probably started talking his shit to us on the podcast, which I would have been here for. That's fine. But maybe he'll come in. If he comes out of his room, he'll come in and jump on Matt's laptop if he hears us talking about the game. One can only hope, because Devin's takes on the Eagles are justified, but yet so absurd at the same time. And I love the mix of it, because he is so hype on his Eagles, but he deserves it. And obviously they won the Super Bowl a few years ago. He got that win under his belt and that monkey off his back. But I do love the energy Devin has for the Eagles. But guys, real quick, week 4, Jaguars, Chargers, 38-10. What the hell happened in that game? Briefly, we'll jump ahead from this because it's obviously in the past, but that was just a very exciting game for the Jags.
Basically, what happened was everything right. It was not expected to go as it did. It was a away game on the West Coast against a good team with a young, up-and-coming, top-tier quarterback. And like we mentioned on the previous podcast that we talked about, a scary defense. Like, they have a lot of big names. You know, they lost Bosa early, but they still had Derwin James. They had Khalil Mack was playing and everything. So it just seemed like a well-executed game from a team that was led by an experienced head coach, got them prepared, and made sure that they had a game plan going across to the West Coast. And like I mentioned that one time, our last episode, they went as late as possible. They tried to not let the time change affect them. So I don't know if that added anything to it, but it was a very clean game across the board.
Clean game. I didn't really watch much of this game because I was at a tiki bar drinking my seasonal way. But anytime I saw my phone come up probably every 5 minutes, the Jags were in the red zone. So I assumed that everything had went well. Then I see the final score. So congrats to the Jags.
Yeah, definitely a fun game, Jacob. You kind of summed it up well there. It was a very clean game. Probably one of the cleanest games I've seen them play since 2017, and the score reflects that, 38-10. You have to play a damn near perfect game to get that type of result, especially against a team like the Chargers. And I know the pundits and the media, talking heads, experts want to talk about the injuries, and fair enough, we'll let them. But a bruised up quarterback and missing a defensive player is not the difference in a 28-point loss. It's plain as that. It's the Jaguars dominated that game from start to finish. There was a point in the game where it felt like the Chargers could get back in the game. The defense made adjustments. Shout out to Mike Caldwell for doing that. He's been doing a great job this year on the defensive side, and the Jaguars ended up pulling away. Trevor Lawrence had a fantastic game. Everything was clicking. So it was a fun game to watch. And starting off the second 2 games of the season, so the third game, but the second half of the first quarter of the season, it was nice to get a win there against the Chargers, knowing that we had the Eagles lying ahead, and we knew that was going to be a tough game. So if the Jaguars don't beat the Chargers there, and then they're going up against an Eagles team, this team very easily could be 1-3 right now, with the loss to the Commanders and Chargers and then Eagles. However, the Jags get that win in Los Angeles, able to take the lead in the AFC South, go 2-1, and it kind of set up a very tasty matchup in Week 4. I think it was a matchup a lot of people were hyped for, and for good reason. But I think a lot of people were surprised that this turned out to be an exciting matchup.
Yeah, I think we had this game circled just because Devin is a big Eagles fan. So for us, it was just going to be fun to watch with him. But somehow after 3 weeks, we now had it circled because it appeared that it was actually going to be a quality game. And that wasn't just our opinion. That was the national media's opinion. And I almost don't like that because what did I wake up to on Sunday morning but talking heads on ESPN and SportsCenter picking us to win? And I'm like, well, of course, now we're going to get jinxed. So it was a very surprising matchup this early that for as well as the Eagles were doing, that we were going to actually go into this game thinking we had a great shot and it was going to be a quality game. And some people refer to as a potential Super Bowl preview. I think it's a little early to say that, but we're the AFC, they're the NFC, you never know. So that's all I can say going in. It was surprisingly expected to be a good game.
Yeah, and that's all you can really ask for, I think. Going into the season, you're kind of looking at this game like, okay, you're circling it as a loss, and then kind of like those hurricane paths, the projections change as the season unfolds, and it might not be going exactly where you thought it would be going before the season. And it turned out to be quite an exciting matchup. Matt, what were your thoughts kind of going into this game, Jaguars versus Eagles? I know you had a chance to watch that with us, seeing that the baseball season was over, but what were your thoughts kind of going into that game?
I mean, obviously the Jags are back. They had a winning season after Week 3. But I just think the biggest thing was that hopefully to kind of keep control of the game. Obviously, the Eagles are a huge contender, like I said in this episode just a couple weeks ago, and so just kind of keeping the momentum going after a good start to the season and see how things go from there. And unfortunately, things didn't go the way it happened at times, but it happens.
Yeah. So Eagles 29, Jaguars 21. That score, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, that score doesn't really tell the whole tale of the game. That score makes it kind of feel like it was, one team would score, then the other team would score. But this seemed like just a game of streaks and teams gaining momentum. And it started off early with a Jalen Hurts pick six to Andre Sisco. He returned it to the house. Jaguars force a punt, and the Jaguars get the ball back and go back down and score up 14-0 after the first quarter. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start to the game if you're a Jags fan. And then the heavens opened up, and everything changed as soon as that happened. And obviously, there was weather all morning, and people saw the videos, and the weather was expected. So it's not like it came out of nowhere. But the weather comes in the second quarter, and just how the Chargers fans wanted to use Justin Herbert's injury as an excuse, I think it's easy now for the Jaguar fans to look at the weather and point to that as an excuse. Both teams were obviously playing in it. You're an NFL team. You have to be prepared for the weather. It's easy to look at it and say that was a factor in the game. I don't discount that. But at the end of the day, both teams are playing in that weather, changed the direction of the game. And the Eagles kind of took full control, it felt like, come the second quarter.
Yeah, and something like you mentioned, us getting up 14-0 pretty quick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that deep shot to Jamal Agnew, that was before the Eagles ever scored their first touchdown. So that could have potentially been a 21-0 we're talking about. The pass was maybe a little long. Maybe if it's Zay Jones rather than Jamal Agnew, maybe that gets brought in, but I don't know. It seemed like what really made this game turn the way it did was the turnovers. 4 fumbles, an interception. But then again, we seemed to still always be in it since we had that early lead. And what did the Eagles do but run the ball? And Jalen Hurts is a huge threat. So I think a lot of that zone read that allowed Miles Sanders to just blow right through the middle of our line, play by play. I had written down 27 carries, Miles Sanders. I don't think I've ever heard Miles Sanders ever having that many carries. He's been a very efficient runner, but I don't think off of a huge amount of carries. But they just kept going to him, and he had 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then our running back, James Robinson, who we are, you know, so happy that he came back from his Achilles, only got 8 carries. And I understand like he had a fumble early that didn't get lost, but he had the fumble and it was rainy, it was wet. I hope that this is not a theme that we get away from the running game, because I think James Robinson is the engine that kind of keeps us going. Fortunately, I think we have a passing game to also like take over, but we can't get away from running the ball, especially in the weather. And that's what they were doing. They were keeping the ball, moving the clock, just overpowering us in what I considered our own game.
Yeah, go for it, Matt. Were you saying something?
No, but I was going to say, like, it's almost like the Eagles are kind of putting up college numbers. I mean, like Jacob said, Philly's main goal was to run the ball. They had 50 carries, the Eagles did, for 210 yards. Like he said, Miles Sanders had 27 carries. Jalen had 16. Kenneth 5. Trey Sermon 2. I mean, when's the last time you've seen an NFL team have that many carries in a game? It's unbelievable, and that's what the game plan was. Like Justin said, the weather was a huge factor. And I think they took that into effect. Jags, not too sure. I mean, they had a different game plan, but like you guys said, the turnovers were just a huge factor. You just eliminate those, it's probably a much different ballgame than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and for those watching on YouTube right now, I have the play calling distribution pulled up. Jaguars 23 pass attempts and 19 rushing attempts. Eagles 25 pass attempts, 50 rushing attempts. So that just kind of shows you the disparity in the play calling. Eagles 2 for 1 in favor of the run, and the Jaguars almost 1 for 1, a balanced play calling. Jacob, what's up, man?
I was just going to say, like, if you look back at the previous 3 games they had, Miles Sanders had 13, 17, and 15 carries. 27 carries is not Miles Sanders' game. And not only that, we allowed Philly had 25 first downs throughout the game, 14 of those being by running the ball. So over half of the first downs that they got, which I think doubled ours anyway, was running the ball. And it's like there's nothing we could do to stop it. That's been a strength. We were the number 1 rushing defense going in. And I really do believe that Jalen Hurts threat on those potential quarterback keepers, the zone read, I think that's what really allowed Miles Sanders to get loose. He's a efficient runner anyway, but we can't let that happen. And I know Foley kind of got hurt a little bit, so I'm hoping that's not a long-term thing. But that was the game,
Yeah.
turnovers and just allowing gashes of like 10-yard runs just for first downs.
Yeah, the RPO by Jalen Hurts is lethal. It might be one of the most lethal style of play for any team in the NFL. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson equally as mobile and agile, but the RPO with Jalen Hurts and the way they're able to execute it behind an offensive line, mind you, that lost 2 offensive linemen in this game. So we can't move forward without saying that. I mean, Jordan Mailata on the Eagles was gone in the first quarter, and that's a huge piece for the Eagles' success for running the ball. And they had next man up. I mean, Lane Johnson bodied Travon Walker and made him look like a 7th round pick at times in the trenches. Lane Johnson stepped up. Jason Kelsey is obviously one of the most consistent offensive linemen you could ask for in the NFL. So you have to give props to the Eagles offensive line here. And I do think it's funny you mentioned Foley Fatukasi. He got injured with 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. And shortly thereafter, the Eagles score their first touchdown of the game. And shortly thereafter, the Eagles would score 29 unanswered points from that point moving forward. Jaguars lose one of their starting defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, and it seemed like Nick Sirianni and the Eagles just said, okay, we don't have healthy tackles or a healthy left tackle. It's raining cats and dogs out here. We've already seen our quarterback throw a pick 6. Why are we not just running the ball and pounding the ball? And that's exactly what they did. From that point forward, Miles Sanders just took over the game with the run. Jalen Hurts took over the game with the RPOs, the run play options. So, run pass options, excuse me. And they were able to execute flawlessly against this team. All of that being said, the Jaguars committed 5 turnovers, a Trevor Lawrence interception, which we will get to that in a second because I want to talk about that interception, and 4 lost fumbles. For those keeping score at home, Trevor Lawrence is the first player this century to ever fumble the ball, lose 4 fumbles in a game. First player this century to ever do that. So The Jaguars played about as poorly as you could have asked for from the second quarter on. And I want to start with that first fumble he had on 4th and 3 when it looked like everything was going the Jaguars' way. It was 4th and 3 right near the 50-yard line. They were already winning 14-0. Trevor Lawrence rolls out of the pocket, which we've seen him do all season, and has a wide open Tim Jones across the first down line. Hell, Trevor Lawrence could have sleepwalked the ball over the first down line and kept the drive alive. And who knows what that would have led to. That could have led to 17-0, 21-0, or no points. Who knows? But he fumbles the ball, can't recover it. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. Eagles recover it. And on that very same drive, the Eagles go down the field and score their first touchdown. And that was where the momentum shifted. The Jaguars were never able to regain the momentum after that first fumble. And from that point forward, it seemed like the Eagles were in full control. First of all, thoughts on that, guys, with that first fumble and how that kind of affected the outcome of the game?
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't picture it right now.
The one where he's rolling out right and the ball hits the thigh pad and...
Oh, yes. When it hit his leg?
Yeah, he's running and it hits his leg because he's holding it down by his leg and it hit his thigh pad and it bounced out.
And I know that like hitting the leg caused it. I do feel like the weather still affected that a little bit just because it was slippery. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a fumble like that before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's those decisions. He's still kind of, we jokingly say it like living his rookie year. He's still making some of those rookie mistakes. Just because last year was kind of, an outlier in terms of coaching. So we see these flashes like last week, offensive player of the week, but this week, he might miss certain open guys and he's still probably getting a hold of everything going on. I don't remember it quite as well as you, but yeah, it's like anytime you fumble just rolling out like that without anyone coming at you and affecting that's not good.
Yeah, well, I was only reason I remember it so vividly is because when it happened, it felt to me like, okay, that is the turning point of this game. And it stuck with me. I was like, it's all going to come back to that. The momentum's going to shift. And just behind me, again, for those watching on YouTube, you just saw another fumble under center on a 4th and 1 again, or a 3rd and 1, trying to take the snap under center to just get a few yards for the first down. And it happens here. I'll pull up Trevor Lawrence's stat lines real quick for everyone. 11 of 23, awful. 174 yards, okay. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 fumbles. So, right around 16, 15 yards per completion, but obviously not anything you're going to win a football game with. I mean, had the Jaguars won this game with that type of stat line, that would have said a lot about this team and in the direction they're going, because when you can play your absolute worst and still find a way to win a football game, that's the sign of a great team. I know we've said it before that we're a good team and we're a capable team. Obviously, we're not there yet as far as being a great team that can overcome that many. Hell, I don't know if there's many teams in the NFL that could overcome that many turnovers. I would have to look at the stats behind it, but I don't know the last time a team won a football game with 5 turnovers.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, this was not a great Trevor Lawrence game. When you turn over the ball that many times, and I think one fumble was kind of like off the snap. The interception was not good. He kind of stared down the receiver. But when you look at that completion percentage, it's not great. But if you didn't watch the game, there was a lot of drops and a lot of like just slippery passes. It seemed like we would throw these like screens or throw these short routes to whether it be Christian Kirk, Jamal Agnew, I'm not sure who else, but like we kept seeing the ball and nobody seemed to be able to keep their hands on this ball. And so I think it was still a collective effort. Trevor definitely has a lot of blame here, but it's not all on him. And I think other players could have done better to help him out. Not that they didn't try. It just seemed like a really messy game. And it comes back to me that maybe the game plan should have stayed on the ground. I know ETN got a couple carries and looked explosive, on a couple shots like up the middle of the line. But like, I really don't know what the move away from James Robinson was for. I don't want that to be, a consistent thing going forward, because in a game like that where you have a second-year quarterback, maybe arguably like kind of rookie quarterback in terms of, actual head coaching experience. You don't want to put him in a situation where he has to have these crazy heroics on the road in Philly against the number one NFC team, the only undefeated team, and try to do it by himself in this rain. I think that for me is like a big factor. Is I don't want to see James Robinson get 8 carries unless it's our passing game just balling out. You know what I'm saying? So Trevor needs to clean things up. I think we know that. The offensive line needs to do better to protect him because it seems like a couple of those fumbles, at least the last one, the line just crashed on him big time before he even had a chance to like read anybody moving down the field. So I don't know. For me, just getting away from that run game really doesn't help Trevor Lawrence in that situation with the rain and just the lead going away.
I had that stat line for you, Justin. The last team that won a game with 5 turnovers or more. Shockingly enough, it was last season. It was a Miami Dolphins, November 7th against the Houston Texans. They won 17-9 with 5 turnovers, 3 lost fumbles, and 2 interceptions.
Are you able to see how many turnovers the Texans had, or no?
No, it's just giving me the total turnovers.
Because even more so than just the turnovers, I think we had a -4 turnover margin in this game, which I think is even more important because if the Texans also had 3 or 4 turnovers, then, the ball's going back and forth and that's kind of the game flow. In this instance, it was, -4 turnover margin is almost insurmountable. But thanks for pulling that up. And Jacob, to your point about James Robinson and the Trevor Lawrence dynamic, what I'm frustrated by is like I think it's well known that the Eagles' defensive line is star-studded and they're fantastic, and they have Fletcher Cox, who he's led the way in Philadelphia for the last decade, if not more. But Doug Peterson doesn't strike me as the kind of coach that goes away from a game plan just because something's not working. So that's what was frustrating to me was you have a 14-0 lead and you're already passing on first down and the weather's already not in your favor. So why are you abandoning the run just because maybe you're only getting 2 or 3 yards? We need to be that kind of team that sticks to their strengths, especially when the weather doesn't favor your strengths or doesn't favor your weaknesses, I guess.
And I understand their defensive line is pretty solid, and you don't necessarily need to like feed James Robinson the ball like up the middle. But I mean, to just get away from them altogether, we need to have that threat. Otherwise, they're just gonna, sell out in the passing game, short passing game, because I'm sure they're expecting that with the weather. They're not expecting a bunch of deep shots. James Robinson has looked pretty solid. Even the few runs he had, he looked like he was still getting like 4 yards, 5 yards. It wasn't pretty, but that's what he does. So I think the upcoming game hopefully will give us a chance to kind of get back to what we've been the first 3 weeks. But like we've said before, to have 5 turnovers and still lose to the number 1 and only undefeated team in the league by 8 points, and have a chance at the end of the game before we fumble once more. I think that tells us that we're in a pretty good spot. To be 2-2 after 4 weeks is not what we expected. It's what we hoped for.
Matt, is that Devin?
Yeah, there's a Devin sighting.
Devin.
Tell Devin to come in.
I told him to.
Oh, jeez, I don't want this guy here. He's going to talk some shit.
He's gonna have to talk into your mic.
I'll say this.
You want to jump on?
Devin was definitely nervous after that interception and 14-point lead. I enjoyed seeing that.
He just wanted some food. He comes in my room and says, "I just trying to eat some food." All right, so we're talking Jags Eagles. Thoughts on the game? Look at this Eagles fan. He's too hype. Thoughts on the game and your emotions throughout the game until the 29-21 victory for the Eagles.
Thoughts throughout the game. Honestly, when the Jags went up 14-0, I was a little scared there. Just a little scared. I ain't gonna lie, a little scared, but then reality kicked in like real quick, and I realized who my team was. And honestly, it was a bad game, and it was a really good game, actually.
Fair enough.
Not really much I can really say. our defense really played good. Our front line, our D line actually came in and like played really good towards the end of the game, towards like the second quarter, going into like the second half, I would say. Honestly, the game was really close with all the Jags fumbles and the interception, so I was quite surprised to see that actually. Actually, the Jags are pretty good. I ain't gonna lie.
All right, so I have a question for you, Devin. Before you go eat some more burgers or whatever you're eating, tell me when to stop. Jalen Hurts is the top quarterback in the league.
For sure.
No.
No, I don't think he understood. And if he did, screw him.
I kind of saw that one coming. I saw that one coming. You heard it here. Jalen Hurts, top quarterback in the league, according to resident Eagles fan Devin Walker. But no, I mean, it's good to hear the perspective of an Eagles fan thinking that the game was fairly close considering all the turnovers. And Jacob, you're spot on. 5 turnovers to lose a game by 1 possession to the best team in the league. If there's one positive to take away from the game, in my opinion, it's that. Other positive, it's the fact that Trevor Lawrence is not fumbling the ball 4 times in a sunny condition game. The fumbles he had are not happening. Maybe 1 or 2 could have happened. But he's not had a performance like that in his career. The interceptions will happen. Obviously, that's inevitable. So tough to see that. Toughest part about the interception was it wasn't even caused by the weather. He looked at Christian Kirk. He threw it off his back foot because of being hurried, and he had Jamal Agnew wide open in the flats. So it almost looked there like he took off a little bit more than he could chew, and he should have just taken the easier throw to Jamal Agnew. Could have gotten the first down easily. Could have possibly gotten a touchdown. But he makes a bad throw, gets picked off. Pass was intended for Christian Kirk, so was obviously trying to feed Christian Kirk as much as he could. But yeah, we saw Marvin Jones drop the ball. We saw Christian Kirk drop the ball. We saw Jamal Agnew drop the ball. Like, it was happening all over the place. So we could talk about that the whole episode, but we're not going to do that. Those out there watching, you are very aware of how the game went. If you're here, you're more than likely a Jags fan. We appreciate you being here. And hopefully we're hitting home some of the points that you were thinking during the game and after the game. Obviously 2 days removed from the game, so we like to cool down and then collect our thoughts and get the thoughts out there. What I will say is this, Jacob. The Commanders game and the Eagles game, the Jaguars get the ball with 2 minutes to go and a chance to either go down and tie the game or win the game. And against the Commanders, Trevor Lawrence throws a pick in the final drive. And against the Eagles, Trevor Lawrence fumbles on the first play of the final drive. I want to see him win us a game in clutch time. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson yesterday or on Sunday went down 5 for 5, 57 yards or 52 yards, and led the Jets to the game-winning drive over the Steelers in his first game back. Obviously, the Steelers are far inferior than the Eagles are, but I want to see Trevor Lawrence, given the opportunity, 2 minutes left, game on the line, go down and win us the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair because there was a lot of Trevor Lawrence haters the last couple of weeks, and especially after this game. And I think it's kind of crazy because we've seen other quarterbacks that have looked absolutely awful their rookie year, not so great their second year, but then turn things around and look much better. So I think it's still there's still time, and he's already looked pretty solid. But that's what's missing as of right now. We've seen him, play some clean games. We've seen him make some good throws. But we want to make sure we have that clutch guy that when we need him to do more than just make the routine throws, and I don't want to say manage the game because he's not a game manager, I don't believe by any means. But I need to see him make those big plays that differentiate himself from just the standard quarterback. Like we see it from Herbert. He was hurt the game we played. But at the end of the day, he still had that one deep shot that was Herbert. He on the run, kind of slightly to his right, just flips the ball 40, 50 yards downfield. No problem. I want to see that out of Trevor, and he really needs to take command. I know this wasn't probably the game for it, just with the weather. Week 1 also was week 1. Your first game, you're figuring things out. It looked messy. It was messy, but we cleaned up. So I'm hoping that we have this nice stretch of games coming up. That's where I need to see Trevor, really show that he can do those things, because there's almost, I don't want to say no excuse, but that's where we can take this leap, I think, is this next stretch of games.
Yeah. Matt, any thought from you on the Eagles Jags before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I mean, just clean up the mistakes. Obviously, a lot of guys are pissed off after 5 turnovers. Just clean up the mistakes, knowing that it's still early in the season. Just flush it out and just move on to week 5.
Yeah, I don't want to be in a position where we have a superstar quarterback that can only win us games when it's perfect conditions out. He's got to find ways to win. Both those games I mentioned against the Commanders and the Eagles were on the road. Wasn't able to get the job done. But we do come home after a 2-week trip all the way to the West Coast, all the way back to Jacksonville, dealing with potential hurricane, and going to Philadelphia, where honestly Ian then ends up affecting the Jaguars in Philadelphia because of the outer bands of the hurricane that just passed through Florida. So a tough stretch of travel for 2 weeks for the Jaguars, but they're finally back home in Jacksonville, and they have the Houston Texans coming in, who are the only winless team in the entire NFL. They are 0-3-1. The Raiders won this past Sunday over the Broncos, so the Texans are now the only winless team in the NFL, and the Jaguars open up as home touchdown favorites in this one. So that's like the first time I've seen that happen in a very long time. And before we jump into this game, here's a look at the standings, fellas. For the AFC South, Jaguars 2-2, Titans 2-2. You have the Colts at 1-2-1, and the Texans at 0-3-1. So obviously the division is still very much up for grabs. This loss hurts the Jags. However, it does not put them behind the 8 ball by any means. This was a tough game going into it, but we move on forward to the Jaguars Texans 1 p.m. this coming Sunday. How are we feeling about week 5, boys?
It's exciting. We need this game. We need something a little bit easier. I don't think it's a trap game, so I'm not worried about that. I think we just had a pretty rough loss. I'm sure coming home they're excited for this, and I don't expect anything less than a solid double-digit win. I don't know what you think, Matt.
Yeah, no, this should be a fun game. I haven't decided if I'm going to go to the game or not, but always fun to have your division rivals come through. Obviously, I don't think it's also going to be a trap game. I just don't think the Texans are very good, so I think the Jags should. I don't want to say hammer, but I do think, like I said, the Jags clean up the mistakes from last week. I think they'll be just fine this week. But this NFL season has gone absolutely berserk mode, so we'll see. But I think the Jags can pull this one out pretty easily.
Let's play a little game. I'm going to name names, and I want you to tell me if you're scared of them or not. Dameon Pierce. Are you scared of Dameon Pierce?
No.
You could have said yes. He's had a pretty solid season. It's not terrible. Good runner.
All right,
Brandon Cooks.
I'm slightly. I'm slightly afraid of him, actually.
Little bit.
Maybe.
Nico Collins.
No.
Chris Moore.
Who?
Okay. OJ Howard.
No.
Nah.
So these are their leading receivers besides Dameon Pierce. That was obviously their starting running back.
Yeah.
I think Rex Burkhead is also up in there. I'm not afraid of anybody on this team, any of their playmakers. And I was looking at some like Pro Football Reference. They don't have great offense. It seems like they're bottom in the league in defense on either side. We have the eighth best, or not the eighth best, the fourth best scoring defense, the eighth best rush defense, and we're tied for second in the league in takeaways. So our defense against a not great offense and a not great defense against like what we've seen us put up 38 points. We put up 21 against the Eagles in a very sloppy game. 20. I just don't see how anything other than a double-digit win here. I know we're favored by a touchdown. That's Vegas being Vegas. But I expect to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think I no, and you bring up a lot of good points there. And unfortunately, I'm always hesitant to get excited about playing a team with people that people don't know or players that people don't know, just because it is the NFL and we have seen some crazy shit this year. So everything is unpredictable, but I do think the stars are aligning well for the Jaguars in this game, coming back home after 2 away games, suffering a pretty devastating loss to the Eagles, a game that you felt like you could have won. Those are the worst games to lose. We felt it with the Commanders game. We feel it now with the Eagles game. Those are winnable games. This team is 2 to 3 plays away from being 4-0, and there's 31 other fan bases saying that. But that's the reality is this team is close to being perfect. However, they're not perfect. So they're coming in, I think, with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence comes in, trying to prove the doubters wrong while not trying to make extremely dangerous plays to put it on tape. Play within your game, get back to who you are as a quarterback, but go out there and try and win games. What's up, Devin? And Aaron Judge just broke the record for 61 home runs. Oh, all the national news outlets are doing it, so we just do it here. Cut in for the Aaron Judge home run
Breaking
record.
news whenever you listen to this podcast.
Hey, at least he didn't do it against my Orioles.
There you go.
I'll take that. What?
Well, Devin thinks the Orioles wouldn't pitch to him. Now he only
kept striking out. He kept striking out.
He needs to hit 12 more to break the record, so I don't know what everyone was freaking out about anyway.
It's the American League record.
Yeah, but come on.
Baseball fans care, okay? Baseball fans care.
American League record. Oh, no, get the league record and then we'll start talking. That's like crowning the AFC champion. Oh, you won the Super Bowl for your conference. I know it's a big deal, but everyone wants the Super Bowl. But back to the game, I think Trevor Lawrence needs to play within his game and come in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to try and prove some of the doubters wrong. The same people after the Colts and Chargers game that were ready to crown Trevor Lawrence league MVP are the same people that are shitting on him first when he has a bad performance. There are just some fans out there that are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. They're extremists. They're extreme Jaguar fans that will only be super happy when the team wins and will be terribly sad when the team loses. But I feel like a majority of us are pretty level-headed when it comes to our expectations and our results, or I guess our emotions after games. I feel like them coming home, playing a division rival who obviously is under-talented and obviously hoping for better weather, I think things are lining up well for the Jags.
And I'll say this. I know we're probably going to get into score predictions. I just adjusted mine because the Texans are the second worst rushing defense in the league. And so what that tells me is everything I just said about James Robinson only getting 8 carries in the Philly game, this is the game that I want to see us lean back on James Robinson. I definitely think that the passing game should be wide open for Trevor. This is not a great defense overall. But if we get out to a lead, this is the type of game. Let's control possession. Let's just, drive down the field with our run game, pass when we need to, maybe go for some big shots. But this is not a game where you need to have probably anywhere near 30 pass attempts in the game, probably, in my opinion. I think when you have 2 running backs like James Robinson and ETN, I hope to see ETN break one of these runs that we keep seeing him kind of hit a corner and then cut up field in a hole. I want to see him break one of these. That's the one thing we have yet to do. We've seen James Robinson do it. That was his kryptonite, it seemed. I want to see ETN break it, but I want to see James Robinson with at least 15 plus carries. I think that's how you really put away a team like this that's not threatening anybody except for, I don't know, some fluke from Brandon Cooks or Damian Pierce doing something wild, but I'm not afraid of them at all. I know that sounds bad because it's the NFL, but this is a game that we're coming off our loss. I think this is where Doug Peterson rallies the troops and kind of gets them back on track.
I love it. So Jacob's key to the game. James Robinson, 15 plus carries, they win the game. At least 15 carries, they win the game. Matt, let's go to you real quick. Jags, Texans, 1:00 on Sunday. Keys to the game for you for the Jaguars.
I say just keep the gas pedal pressing. like I said, I think this is a team where you can build a lead, and if you do that, then defensively, you've shown you could be one of the better defenses. Just keep the gas pedal going. Like we said, the Texans are very good, but they do manage to stay in games late. So I think if you just keep the pressure on them and you just keep building a lead, I think you're going to pull away. This is a team where you can't let up. Like it's the Texans, we said what they're 0-3-1 or something like that, 0-2-1.
Yeah, 0-3-1. Yep.
0-3-1. So just keep a gas pedal going and just slam it down their throats. Just slam it down your throats. That's my key right there. Slam it down their throat.
All right. So, yeah, we'll do that because I'm very happy you brought that up because you brought up a point that I wanted to talk about with the Texans. Week 1, they tie against the Colts. They blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. Week 2, they're beating the Denver Broncos. Granted, maybe not the best team in the league. I think everyone would say that. They lose to the Broncos 16-9. And they were winning in the fourth quarter of that game. Week 3, they lose to the Bears 23-20, and they had a chance to win that game at the end. And then week 4 against the Chargers, who the Jaguars just beat. We just talked about that earlier. The Chargers built a 21-0 lead and then a 24-7 lead before the Texans scored back-to-back touchdowns to make it 27-21 with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So to Matt's point, this is a team that was down 21 to the Chargers, who have Austin Eckler. You think this game's over. They battle back to within 6 points in the fourth quarter, and the Chargers they battle back to within 3. It was 27-24 with 8 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. So they rattled off about 17 unanswered points in that game and fought back in that game. So, Matt, I couldn't agree more with you. It is the NFL. These teams these players are playing for their pride. They're NFL players. They're men. They want to be better than the guy across from them. They're not going to just turn over and die. The Jaguars need to do what they did against the Chargers, and when you got a lead, continue scoring. Don't do this upward basketball AAU shit where coaches are getting in trouble for scoring too many points. Like, we're not here to save anyone's feelings. We need to go out there and do what it takes to put the nail in the coffin until the clock hits 0. And I know a lot of people listening are like, come on, what are you talking about? It's the Texans. Like, yeah, I know it's the Texans, but they have been in all 4 games this season. They have been competitive in all 4 games this season. So as we talk about, the Jaguars could easily be 4-0, this Texans team could easily be 2-2. And that's just the reality of the situation. And not to mention, I'll bring this up to you guys. The Texans have won 8 straight games against the Jaguars. The Texans are to the Jaguars what the Jaguars appear to be to the Colts. The last time the Jaguars beat the Houston Texans was in 2017. Both times in 2017 at Houston and at Jacksonville. First, September 10th, Jacksonville 29, Houston 7. Second game, Jacksonville 45, Houston 7 in Jacksonville. But I will say this. The Jaguars are 2-14 against the Texans in the last 16 games. Jacob, how's that make you feel?
You said 2-14 in the last 16?
2-14. So the last 8 the Texans have won. Then the Jags won 2 in 2017. And then the Texans won the 6 before that.
Wow, that's pretty wild. I did not know that. But I'll tell you what. The last time we beat them twice was that 2017 team. And, this is still a long season ahead of us. But I feel like we're feeling a little bit of hope that this year could be another similar like 2017 year where we might, unexpectedly be contending for the playoffs by the end of the year. So I don't think I don't want to worry about that too much. I think that this team has shown that it has the talent, but it also has the coaching to turn around from what happened last week and come back. And I think, me personally, I know this is any given Sunday, and I'm always arguing that. But I think the Jags are going to come make a statement to a division rival this week that last week was not their game. Those 5 turnovers was not their game. Those drops was not their game. The lack of running the ball with James Robinson, I'm going to harp on that, was not their game. And I think they're going to go out and dominate the Texans. And if I'm wrong, so be it. What's new? I'm a Jags fan. I've dealt with much worse. Nothing can hold me back. but I just don't see it. Other than it's the NFL, it's any given Sunday, but like I feel like they're going to come out with that chip, like you mentioned. And Doug Peterson is the perfect coach when it comes to keeping his foot on the gas. I adjusted my score prediction because I thought, oh, we'll probably run the ball a lot more. You almost made me want to put it right back because I brought it down a little bit because that's what he does. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, he will go for it on fourth down from the 50-yard line because that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference from past teams is we've not been one to put our foot on the gas and keep it there. So I'm not too afraid of that 2-14. I know that history, can repeat itself, but this team is way too good. I'm not saying like way too good. I'm saying like they have no business allowing that to happen against this team.
To go a step further, they're 4-19 in the last 23.
Well, you know what? They're about to be 1-0 in 2022 against the Texans.
I like it, but I do like the point you brought up about when the stretch that the Texans have beat the Jaguars, they have not been good Jaguar teams.
Correct.
And the Texans, a lot of those years were playoff contending teams, like with Deshaun Watson. I mean, we forget easily how good the Texans were for a stretch of time. I mean, they've never been like a imminent danger to the league or anything, but they've been in the playoffs more than the Jags in the last 15 years, 10 years. They've had successful teams, and a lot of the times when the Texans have beaten the Jags, it's been when the Jaguars have been very down on their luck and at the bottom of the league. And the Jaguars have beaten the Texans in years where the Jaguars turned out to be a pretty decent team and make the playoffs. So I do also, I like that trending in our direction. I think, like you said, I think that this Jaguars team is too talented and too well coached to allow a team like the Texans to linger and hang around. And it's tough. Honestly, I will say this. It's tough doing these episodes when it is a game like the Texans, because when it was a game against the Colts or, even the Chargers, whatever it is, it's like, okay, you're looking at, the matchups on paper and you're looking at the mismatches and trying to circle where the advantages are. But you look at this matchup and everything points towards the Jaguars having every advantage in the book, which, the only way to look at it then from that point is the contrarian view of, okay, the Texans might have an opportunity somewhere, a mismatch somewhere. So we'll see what happens in this game. Let's, Matt, anything from you regarding this game before we move forward?
No, I mean, you guys all put it right there. Just like I said, just get the gas pedal on, just stomp it down their throats.
Drive it down their throats. Let's get to score predictions on this game. And Matt, if you don't mind, we will start with you and then move to Jacob. Just to give him some time to. It feels like he's marinating in his thoughts on this score, but oh, he's locked in. Matt, what do you got?
I'm going to go 31-14 Jags.
31-14 Jags cover. And I'll have to look at the over-under. I don't know if it's 48. I'll have to look. 31-14. You said 31-14, right?
Yes.
Okay. Jags cover. Jacob, to you.
So I originally had 34-10. I was pretty confident. And the only reason I brought the score down a little bit is not because I am not confident, but I realized if they have the second worst rushing defense and we have two very talented running backs, I could see this game, us getting a lead and, the run game kind of taking over and being the driving force on many drives and kind of eating away a lot of clock, kind of what we saw against the Colts. So I'm going with a score of 27-10. I really have a hard time seeing their offense scoring more than like a touchdown, maybe two. So I gave them a touchdown, a field goal, and I think 27 points is pretty reasonable considering I believe we will maintain a very strong advantage with the time of possession, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. Kind of a similar game flow to the Colts game that saw the Jaguars win 24-0. Jaguars controlled that time of possession, I think, 40 minutes to 20 minutes. So Jacob's calling for a similar game flow as that. I'm going to go with 28-17 in this game. I think it's going to be an easy day for Riley Patterson. No field goals from him except for extra points. But I do think the Texans are a scrappy enough team to maybe score a late touchdown, and maybe it's 28-10 with 3 minutes left and they score. Who knows? But they've been competitive enough in games to start the season that leads me to believe they're only going to get better as the season progresses. And if they've already been keeping it close for the first 4 weeks, I think the Jaguars might be one of the more talented teams they've played this season, with it being the Colts, the Broncos, the Bears, and then the Chargers. So this might be the Texans' toughest matchup. But these divisional games are always so close. They tend to feel close. And you want to get up to go against the guys across from you. So I'm going to go 28-17 in this matchup against the Texans. So it'll be a fun one down at the bank, back at home for the first time in 3 weeks since week 2 against the Colts. And it should be a packed house. I think everyone's excited about this team and what's going on here in Jacksonville. Not only the national media seems excited, the local media, the fans, and hopefully we can shut up some of those stupid haters in the Facebook groups and on Twitter that want to shit on the Jaguars because they lose a sloppy, wet football game. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. But let's move forward real quick to just some general NFL talk for the fans out there. Week 4 has obviously concluded. Eagles are the only undefeated team. Texans are the only winless team. But boys, what are we buying after week 4? If anyone wants to start, feel free. What are we buying after week 4 of the NFL?
I think that the Chiefs are also Super Bowl contenders after what we just witnessed from a magician like Patrick Mahomes putting up 41 points in Tampa Bay. It just shows that Mahomes can play without his best receivers, obviously with Tyreek Hill being gone, DeMarcus Robinson now being in Baltimore, but having guys like Smith-Schuster, Valdez-Scantling, and then, I just think the Chiefs they're here for it. They're one of the top teams, and I think it shows that they're huge contenders.
You honestly took the words right out of my mouth. I let you go first, and I was.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
So with the Chiefs, I know they lost to the Colts previously, which didn't help us. We don't want them to lose to the Colts. We want the Colts to lose, of course. But Patrick Mahomes losing, a receiver like Tyreek Hill, and you wonder if that's going to catch up with them. But I think were the Buccaneers the number 1 scoring defense going into this game, or is that
either them or the 49ers?
For him to go in and lead that team to a scoring effort, like what was it, 41 points? That really showed me that any struggles you might have seen from the Chiefs early on, and you start pointing fingers like, oh, they don't have Tyreek Hill, there is this happening, whatever. I think that it's silly to, look at them and not think that Patrick Mahomes is probably still the best quarterback in the league, no matter the weapons. He does things on a normal basis that I don't think any other quarterback can replicate as consistently as he does. He makes the routine throws and then still makes the very wild, sidearm, no look passes. He did like a little kind of jump pass almost for a touchdown. Like he was about to get hit and, avoided getting taken down before he just tossed the ball into the end zone. So I just think that when you have that quarterback and you have any kind of weapons around him of quality talent, he's going to be the catalyst for them. And they still have Andy Reid. So I'm absolutely buying the Chiefs as being big time Super Bowl contenders as well.
Love it. I'm between 2, so I might say both. I'm gonna buy the Cowboys under Cooper Rush. The team's 3-1. Cooper Rush is 4-0 as a starter. He's been in the league now for I think 4 seasons, and he's had a lot of time sitting behind Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott obviously cannot stay off the injured reserve, and it looks like Cooper Rush has stepped in and did everything you could want from a backup, if not more. The Cowboys, I think, are trying to bring Dak back this week. I doubt that's going to happen. But the Cowboys are set up with a tough date against the Rams this week and then the Eagles. So I think if Cooper Rush can somehow navigate these next 2 games 1-1, the team has no reason to go back to Dak Prescott, other than the fact that he's being paid millions of dollars and they're in debt to him and will want him to play because of it. But I think the Cowboys under Cooper Rush are I don't want to say a Super Bowl contending team or even an NFC contending team, but I think they are a team that maybe is better than we would have seen under Dak Prescott, which is surprising to me. And the second thing I'm buying this week is that the Tennessee Titans are back, in my opinion. They had a tough start to the 2022 campaign. They started 0-2. They've since won their last 2 games. They're now 2-2, tied with the Jags at the top of the AFC South. But their next 3 games coming up: Commanders, Colts, and Texans. Obviously, they just beat the Colts. They played them 2 times in 3 weeks. This team could very well be 5-2 going into Week 8 against the Chiefs. So the Titans seem, in my opinion, to be hitting their stride. Granted, they haven't been blowing teams out, but they're getting the job done, and I think they are kind of kicking it into the Titans mode that we are used to seeing them at during the season. Because I think a lot of us were surprised that they were 0-2 to start the season. So that's what Poojie's buying. But what are we selling after Week 4, gentlemen?
Jake,
Selling
you
anything?
this time? You want to go first this time, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule, and it's like anytime I see New York Giants, the New York Giants 3-1 still. They're winning games, and it's like I just don't know if I can believe that's going to be real when it's all said and done. But Saquon looks good. But something about it just seems like at the end of the day, I mean, we still have the Eagles, leading that division. They look strong. You mentioned buying the Cowboys. Somehow I got to sell the New York Giants being this 3-1 team and this potential threat. I think Saquon's very talented. I could be wrong about this, but I do not think that when it's all said and done, they're going to be in the playoff when the season's ended.
You're out on the Giants.
I'm out on the Giants.
Just completely out. I'll go next. Give Matt some more time. I am selling Mike Tomlin's record of streak of seasons over 500. I think it's 16 straight seasons, 15 straight seasons at 500 or better. One of the longest streaks. I think it's the second longest streak for a coach ever to start with a team and go over 500 every single season. He did it in large part due to help from a solid defense and Ben Roethlisberger. But I am selling that streak. I think that streak ends this season. I think anyone with eyes and interest in football can see that happening. The Steelers are currently 1-3, and it does not look good for the Steelers. And I'm going to read you their next 4 games and tell me how this team is not 1-7 after these next 4 weeks. They have at the Bills, home against the Bucks, at the Dolphins, and at the Eagles. Any chance they win any of those games?
Well, there's always a chance, I guess, but
Always a chance.
I'm not gonna put any money on it.
If he gets to 1-7 through these first 8 games, like the streak's over. I'm selling his consecutive seasons of over 500 or better.
I mean, selfishly, I want him to lose all 4.
He's gonna just lose all 4 of them. He's done.
Yeah.
Matt, you selling anything after Week 4?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning to 2 things that you had for the buys. First one, I'm selling the idea of the Bengals being still in a Super Bowl hangover. They look good against the Dolphins. I think Joe Burrow was kind of back to his strength and just being a baller. It scares me also being a Ravens fan going into Sunday night, how they're going to look, especially how we're looking right now. But I think the Bengals are still going to be contending for a Super Bowl with the Chiefs and some other teams. And my next one, this one kind of hurts because we watched them on HBO Hard Knocks. The Detroit Lions, they have a good offense, but they may have the worst defense in the entire NFL, giving up 48 points to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, who are supposed to be a bad team this year. So if the Lions can't get the defense together, I mean, you can put up like I said, you can put up 40 points, you can still lose.
Yeah.
So I'm
48-45 in that game is just absolutely absurd. They're the highest scoring team in the league.
They are, and
Yeah.
I think they've given up. I think I heard they've scored the most points through week 4, and yet they're 1-3.
Do
Yeah.
you think that Jamal Williams clip of him in the huddle having that very heartfelt kind of pump up clip in Hard Knocks, do you think he was only talking to the offense in that? Do you think any defensive players like missed that huddle?
Hey, I don't
Or
know.
what's that?
Wasn't around.
We only saw the middle of it. I don't know. He did stiff arm a guy. Jamal Williams
Yeah.
did.
He almost cried.
He almost did.
That's what he is, because he cares.
I know.
He loves y'all, he says.
God, that is so painful, Matt, because I wanted to buy into the Lions so badly, but
I wanted to too, man. I wanted to as well, but I just can't with that defense, man.
You know,
I hope they prove me wrong, though. Hope they prove me wrong.
I had
Justin,
a go for
go
it.
ahead.
I had a 3-leg parlay this weekend get ruined because of the Lions, which I never thought I'd say that, but
I had the Lions 14 confidence points, and that's what killed me.
I had Lions minus 190 on the money line in a parlay where I also had the Giants, and I was like, oh, this is a lock. Yeah, of course it's a lock. Every amateur
Never lock.
We also locked Browns minus 1.5, and look what happened there.
lock.
Justin, you've been
We're idiots.
kind of listening out upcoming schedules. I kind of want to go back to myself with the Giants as I was looking at their upcoming schedule, and I want you guys to answer this question. So the Giants are 3-1, right? They go at Green Bay. They play at home versus the Ravens. I know Matt's going to be a little biased in this pick. And then they play at the Jags. So they're 3-1. After these next 3 weeks, do you believe that the New York Giants are below or over 500? They got 3 games. They're either going to be above or under 500. And those look like some tough games.
You said on the road at Green Bay, at home against Baltimore. What was the third game?
At
So
Jacksonville.
technically, they're in London against Green Bay.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna kind of correct that. They're on the road, but they're in London against Green Bay this week. They play you guys, the Ravens, at home, and then they come to Jacksonville. So with 3 upcoming games, that's going to be 7 games they've played. They're going to be either 4-3 or 3-4.
I'm going to go.
I mean, I guess that's not.
No, but I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll go under 500. Daniel Jones got injured this last game. Tyrod Taylor comes in and gets injured. Saquon Barkley comes in and has to play quarterback and was drawing plays on a whiteboard for the offense because he doesn't know the offensive playbook. Well, I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Like, he shouldn't have to know, the quarterback playbook for the offense. Drawing plays like it's backyard football with your friends on a Saturday afternoon. I think they're in a bad spot. Like, they confuse the shit out of me because I don't know why or how they're good or what they're doing to win. 1, because I don't want to watch them, and 2, because I don't know anything about them that is making them win. They beat a Titans team week 1. They beat a bad Panthers team. They lose to a Cowboys team without Dak, and then they beat a bad Bears team. Like, in my opinion, like, they've just played easy teams and they've beaten teams. Like, they don't have a win on the schedule yet that leads me to be a believer.
Exactly. And I said they'll either be 4-3, 3-4. That's obviously not the only 2 options. But I really don't see them winning. First off, I don't see them winning all 3. I really don't know if I see them winning 2 of the 3. I think they would win potentially 1 somehow. So for me, I just see, like, we have a 3-1 Giants team, and they were at one point undefeated, and like, oh, look at the Giants. But they might be 3-4 when this stretch is over, and now we're looking at this team as like a non-threat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long are both Daniel Jones and Tyler Taylor out. Do we know?
I have no idea. I just heard that Saquon played quarterback.
Yeah, I guess this could be a little while since. I think I also heard that they had tryouts. I think I heard tryouts. I think so. And I think I heard that Jake from State Farm had tried out today. I think I saw a tweet somewhere.
Is no tape on the quarterback for this season.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Now they're gonna win.
That's absurd. The Monday night game was a fun one too if you're a fan of defense because it was 24-9, but there were only 26 total points scored by offenses because the 49ers had a pick six late in the game to kind of seal it. Matt Stafford looked like Detroit Lions Matt Stafford. Cooper Kupp looked like league MVP Cooper Kupp, but the Niners defense looked absolutely stout. Is it safe to say that the 49ers defense, are we going to just say best in the league? Is it easy to say that?
I don't know if it's easy to say that, but I do say that they're definitely top 5. I'll even say that. They looked
Pretty good.
very good, but they didn't have the tackle of the game Bobby Wagner did with that streaker on the field. A gender reveal potential streaker with whatever he had.
That was a big hit.
That was a huge hit.
All right, 49ers trivia for you boys. 4 games down. What's the most points they've allowed in one game this season?
Oh,
Most points they've allowed in one game this season through the first 4 games.
who have they played?
Yeah, like I said, I got to think about who they played.
I mean, they just
Honestly, they
you
just
said the
allowed
most
9.
or the least.
The
sorry,
most points
most.
they've allowed. Bears, Seahawks, Broncos, Rams.
I feel like it's Broncos.
Okay, Broncos and Jacob.
That was what, 11?
I was
No,
going to say maybe 12 points.
12. Okay, so they allowed 9 to the Rams. They allowed 7 to the Seahawks. They allowed 11 to the Broncos, and they allowed 19 to the Bears.
Oh, yeah, the first game, the rain game.
Week 1. So
We thought Justin Fields was back.
we thought Justin Fields was legit. Obviously, he's not. And they've allowed, what is that, 20, so 30, 54, 74. They've allowed 81 points. Did I do that math right? They've allowed 81 points through 4 games, so they're allowing, I guess, 20 points a game. Which I think I did that math wrong. 19 plus 11.
19 plus 11 is 30.
30 plus 27.
Plus 27?
Yeah. Oh, wait, no.
57?
No.
Yeah.
That was their points. I was adding their points. My bad.
Yeah.
So 20, 27, all right, 37, and 46. So they're allowing an average. They're allowing an average of about 12 points a game.
That's what I was
That's a lot
guessing.
better.
The average per game,
The
12.
average per game.
You didn't let me finish.
Yeah, they're pretty elite. They're an elite
Yeah.
defense. Let's see what Jimmy G can do for them moving forward. But let's move to week 5 real quick, just to look ahead. I know we looked at the Jaguars Texans, but now we have week 5 NFL best game of the week from you fellas. Who wants to start that one off?
Colts versus Broncos.
Oh,
Thursday Night
yeah.
Football.
On Prime
Horses
Video.
play on Thursday.
No, that's definitely not going to be the best one. Oh, man.
All right, let me be the first to say there's like no great ones.
There's not.
would
I have
say-
one.
Is it going to have your team in it?
Yeah.
Then go ahead.
It's Bengals Ravens.
Oh,
I would say.
that's surprise.
I feel like
well,
that-
no, just look at all these matchups. The rest of them were just god awful.
I mean, I would say Philly at Arizona might be a fun one just because, we know the Eagles are good. I imagine they win this game, but it could be, if we see Kyler do some Kyler things and, their offense, I don't know if they'll keep up. But
Is Call of Duty doing a double XP weekend that weekend?
Another double XP weekend.
It's the only way we know if he's going to play well or not.
But yeah, for real, like I look at all these matchups and nothing really jumps off as exciting to me.
Yeah, they're all pretty duds. Like they have one exciting team and then one bad team.
Yeah.
Is the way it feels. I think that's the overall consensus. I mean, Raiders at Chiefs on Monday night. That's at least we got a fun Monday night game. The Raiders and Chiefs always seem to play close.
Exactly.
Even though it's not like a good game on paper from the standings, I feel like those two teams just always play each other tight. It's in Kansas City, so that could change things.
Yeah.
So that's a game that preseason you look at that matchup in week 5, you think, oh, that's going to be a great Monday night matchup. Two high-powered passing offenses, and then we look at the record of the Raiders once the games are actually played, and it doesn't seem exciting.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it seems like it's a good matchup just from the standpoint that history has shown it to be a good matchup. And I'm going to go ahead and skip storylines of the week because there are like no good storylines. other than Tua is not playing for the Dolphins and what's going to happen with the Miami medical staff and their trainers and all that good stuff. Who knows? All the other storylines are shit. So we're skipping best storylines of the week. But let's move to unless any of you guys have any good storylines for the week.
Nope, I got
No.
nothing.
Lock of week 5. Lock of week 5. What are you guys going with?
Actually, I do have a storyline: Tom Brady and Giselle.
Oh,
The divorce.
Oh,
that too dark? That dark?
Good storyline. I like it. Yeah, no other storylines. I'm just trying to look off the top of my head. No, I'm done with them.
If you got to think this hard for a storyline, it's probably not a good storyline. Unless we're just complete idiots, which is very possible.
That's also true.
Just like when the refs take. No, you speak for all of us. Just like when the refs take 5 minutes to look at a play, and if you can't determine it within 5 minutes, there's obviously nothing there to see to change your mind. So
yeah,
just stick with the call on the field. Lock of week 5. What are you guys feeling? I mean, I feel like there's got to be some good locks in here.
I think it's got to be the Bills over the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I'll probably go Niners on the road against the Panthers. I think this is finally the game where the Panthers get nothing, then Matt Rule is out of a job.
For the 5th week in a row. Matt Rule's out of a job.
I'm just stunned that he's lasted this long.
I love
I know all my buddies were texting me like, why is he still there?
I'll go man, I don't want to go back to the well that gave me vinegar with the Chiefs and the Colts. I know we all picked that as our lock of week 3.
I know.
And in the Colts.
Who'd you want to pick? You wanted to pick the Chiefs?
I'll take the Eagles in this one. If you've taken the Bills and you've taken the Niners, I will go with the Eagles in this one as my lock of the week, just because if the Eagles play that same exact way as they did against the Jaguars, I don't see any team beating them. Like, you just do the RPO with Jalen Hurts and you let Miles Sanders run it for 5 yards a carry or Jalen Hurts run it for 10 yards a carry, and you win every game. Like, it's that simple. And Eagles might very well go undefeated this season. So if you look at their schedule. Let's get to upset of week 5, upset special week 5. You guys want me to start?
Go
for it.
Yeah.
Because my upset special is Seahawks over the Saints. The Saints are 5.5-point favorites. And I think the Seahawks offense has shown me enough to show me that they can score 24 points. And the Saints offense has not shown me anything that they can beat that in a game against the Seahawks. It's going to be another shootout in my opinion, but I think the Seahawks get the job done. That's my upset special in week 5. I do have another one, but I won't say it because I want to leave you guys with an upset.
Like you do.
What's up?
I need to look at this line real quick.
Ooh, what game?
I'm leaning 2. I have 2 potential ones.
All right, go with 1, and then let's see what Jacob says.
All right. I'm gonna go with
That's not good.
Screw it. I'm gonna go Jets over Dolphins.
Ooh, okay.
Jets over Dolphins. It'll be intriguing to see who Sauce Gardner, who I think has shown to be one of the best corners so far through the first 4 weeks as a rookie. We'll see if he's going to be teamed up with either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. Obviously, the Dolphins situation, not very good, but I'm kind of intrigued. Obviously, the Jets coming off a huge upset win in Pittsburgh. We'll see if the Dolphins are 3-point favorites. Let's see if they can get another one.
That's my thing. I don't want to pick some game that's a small little spread.
Well,
I want it to be juicy.
There's not a lot of big spreads.
Exactly.
No.
So upset special can be anything.
I know. I like to live life on the edge.
All right, fine. Take the Steelers as 14-point dogs.
No, I just picked them as the lock of the week. I can't do that. But no, I wanted to look at the line because, like, we were talking about the Lions, and they're great scoring offense, but struggling on defense. They go to the Patriots. I'm not worried about the Patriots, so they're going to go up into Gillette, and I think they're going to win. And technically, they're they are under. I think the line was at 2.5. I don't know how up to date what I'm looking at is. But yeah, I think the Lions are a good team, not a great team. And, Patriots aren't Patriots really anymore.
Yeah. No, I totally missed that. When I was looking at these, I thought that the Lions would already be favored in that game, to be honest.
That's why I assumed, I'm like, man, are the Lions favored in this? Like,
Which makes me want to just take the Lions even more if I already thought they were the favorite. But an upset counts. As long as they have a plus sign next to their money line, it counts.
I was going to say my other one was going to be Browns over Chargers.
I thought about it. I didn't want to disrespect the Chargers too much.
I feel like this could be a game where Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt could potentially have a huge game.
Let's give Kareem Hunt 3 touchdowns. I'm all for it.
Let's. What do you guys think of?
Is he on your fantasy team?
He may or may not be.
What do you guys think of Colts 3-point dogs against the Broncos? I feel like the Broncos haven't shown us anything to be 3-point favorites.
Can they just both be dogs?
What's up?
Can they just both be underdogs? I mean, like, that's
Could be.
Why is the NFL giving us that shit for a Thursday night game?
I don't know.
Because it's a Thursday night game.
Thursday night game.
Put it on Prime Video.
Well, as bad as these games are this week, that pretty much puts us in prime position to see a lot of good upsets happen. Hopefully, not involving any of our teams, because that would not be ideal. Matt, your 3-point favorites. I don't want to talk about 3 points with you at this moment, but hopefully your Ravens can answer the bell and hang tough in the division, the AFC North, because you've had some heartbreaking losses, and it's only been 4 weeks. And we got to keep you alive in here because it's been 4 weeks and you're already in midseason form.
I can't be going back to my room, shutting the door, and chucking full water balls at my door. Which I did on Sunday.
Do we need to go get stucco?
I did.
Do we need to repair any holes?
No, we're good. We're good. I haven't punched anything.
Okay. When you did that, my dad goes, "He's gonna pay for that."
Well, guess what? I'm not paying anything.
All right. Well, we'll head out for the evening. I will just pull this up. This is interesting. There's 7 teams at 3-1, 15 teams at 2-2, and 8 teams at 1-3. Again, the Eagles are the only undefeated team, and the Texans are the only winless team. So the league right now is pretty tight. All the divisions seem pretty tight. Even the NFC East, where the Eagles are 4-0, the Giants and Cowboys are 3-1. So the first 4 weeks of the season have been extremely exciting. It's shaping up to be a fun week 5 ahead. Anything else from you fellas before we head out for the evening?
Jags are going to pummel the Texans.
Jags are going to pummel the Texans. I love it.
If they don't, then whatever. I'll just not be on the show no more.
Matt, any bold prediction for your Ravens this week?
They don't blow a lead.
They do. Okay.
They don't
I
blow
like
a lead.
that.
Bro, that is ballsy. No offense. I hope
We
not.
we usually play better in primetime games, so we'll see.
Oh, not in
And
front
at
of
home.
everybody.
It is at
Not
home.
in
We'll
front
see.
of everybody.
Hopefully, we just got to get over the blowout last season when Cincinnati came to town.
You'll be over it. You'll be fine. Well, best of luck to the Ravens. And thank you for all those tuning in to this episode of the Poojie Podcast, 137. Again, sorry for not doing one last week. Weather got in the way, but happy to be back and putting out some content for you. Jags fans out there, always looking for that content, especially when the team is 500 in October. We haven't had this in forever. This is crazy for us Jaguar fans. So very exciting times here in Jacksonville. But go enjoy the rest of your first week of October. Spooky season is upon us, so go enjoy first week of October and go enjoy some Wednesday night UCF versus SMU. You get a little college football on Wednesday night and a fun college football Saturday ahead before we dive into week 5 of the NFL season with the Jaguars and Texans at 1 p.m. Go enjoy all that stuff, but most importantly, go make this world a better place and take care.